Yeah. Hi, Jess.
Hi.
So thank you for meeting this afternoon. So could you tell me about the first time that you saw any live improv and where and when that took place, please?
Yeah, the first time I saw improv was many years ago now, probably I think about 17, 18 years ago. And it was in Lancaster. And it was a local group called Improv Express, which was kind of rare at that time in the UK for there to be any kind of local improv groups. But it was run by a man called David Ash. And then I went to see it, and at that point, I was a very shy person and could never sort of see myself doing something like that. But I was sufficiently intrigued to kind of go along and then check it out, and then joined the group, and now here we are.
Okay, so from seeing to doing, I assume that's where you first started to then train in terms of exploring your own practice in terms of improv and things.
Yeah, I was really lucky that I happened to be living in a place where there was somebody that was so enthusiastic about improv. David would quite often go over to the US and go to Europe to various festivals and things like that. So it was interesting because from the very outset, he would always talk in such reverential terms about people like Jill Bernard and Joe Bill. And it's sort of crazy that I've got to meet them and work with them over the years. So yeah, that's really nice.
Yeah. So there are, certainly the sort of early pioneers, I guess, who are sort of pushing that. I was kind of very blessed to have a tutor who went up in 1974 with John Hodgson when they did an improvised play at the Edinburgh Fringe, as was early doors, and he did that out of, oh my word, what's the place called in Yorkshire? I can't remember. It's the drama school that was there that is no longer there. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the point being is, I had this guy who's kind of going, oh yeah, okay, unscripted theatre, that's where it's at, or pure acting, as we used to say. And I really liked that. I think there's a really nice balance to be struck in terms of what you want to do, how you want to do it, and that's all very exciting in terms of developing improv in the UK. Certainly,
yeah, definitely.
I was kind of going, oh, okay, my tutor got it. He kind of went, yeah, I get that. So, thinking back to a moment that really stood out, and it could be in performance, or it could be something you've witnessed as an audience member that's improv. Can you sort of explain or describe a moment of magic that you kind of went, oh, that forever sticks in my brain?
Yeah, I think there was one show that we did. I'm part of an online group called Tiny Dinos. That's a group of people that are sort of all over the world. As a lot of the online kind of improv that sort of came about during the pandemics and lockdowns just brought together people from all over the world. And we did a show, and we sort of had a very sort of loose montage sort of format. And there was a really lovely kind of theme about mothers and about families that kind of came out and kept coming out in this scene. And by the end of the show, I think pretty much all of us had been in tears at some point in the show, because it was one of those moments where it was like, we are improvising and we are acting, but we're definitely accessing some truth about our lives and accessing other people's lives as well. And this sort of sense of connection was so strong. And it was, I think, especially because it was at a point where everybody was so physically separated, that connection online was just incredible. And that just reaffirmed for me what an incredible art form improv is. for being able to do that. You know, people of all different backgrounds, all different cultures, but we all have, you know, these commonalities about emotion and family and connection and wanting to connect with people. And yeah, that was really, really special.
Wow. I have to say, I sort of I'm sure in your line of business as well, in terms of the amount of Zoom that was doing at that point, I was just like, I just need to go for a walk. I'm afraid. I genuinely did try to do the whole online improv thing, and I was just like, oh, there's so many, my children are on the computers, it's just dropping in and out, and I was just like, oh no, I'm just gonna go no. But yeah, it sounds a very special moment in terms of just that shared connection. And sometimes you have those moments where you just kind of go, everything sort of seems to sync together, and that level of authenticity. And I'm sure the sort of rumblings that everyone was feeling in terms of what was a very difficult period of time for everybody, but kind of just having that kind of, you know, it's that idea to be able to empathize in a way where you, oh, that's similar to me, and it has all of it, you know, and I'm, you know, I was away from, my mum lives miles away, so we were having to do the Zoom. So it was that level of just being apart and not being together in the same way, which, you know, I wonder if anyone ever recorded that and it exists somewhere.
Oh yeah, possibly. Yeah.
Archive of beautiful improv and a beautiful improv moment. One of the things, of course, you know, I was post-pandemic. There's, you know, there were loads of different improv groups that were around and now are no longer. You know, and part of the thing around the improvisation festival is about not losing that history. So part of what I'm looking to do is archive and document companies and moments and shows and this, that, and the other, because, or, you know, I know the improv community, it's very much like it's in the moment and we move on to the next thing. And I sometimes just take stock, just stand still and kind of go, actually, we don't want to lose that knowledge, or we don't want to lose that part of that chain. You know, I know improv is, you know, the community kind of is very flexible and it moves here and it cross-pollinates ideas, and that kind of interests me of how one thing, and that's partly why, you know, the festival I think will be very exciting, because I think it's got a diverse program which will challenge people to kind of go, oh, actually, I didn't realize that would be, we could do that. Oh, we might go off in a completely different direction. So very, very excited to have you come over and join us in Liverpool with Glossop. So in regards to what do you think you bring to the sort of your both local community and more widely, and that kind of thing? I mean, it's an awful question to ask, but, you know, where do you sit? Where do you think kind of you sit, and who, you know, because there's sort of the leaders of, I use that term loosely, it's those people who are really passionate that tend to drive to get things done. So how come you are that person, the person that puts all these people together on a regular basis to come and do something like this?
Yeah, so it Glossop Improv started out with me and my friend Seki, both living in Glossop. I just moved to Glossop and I met Seki, and she was really passionate about improv, and I've been really passionate about improv for a long, long time. And then our nearest place to go and do any improv was Manchester, which is fine. It's half an hour on the train, but it's half an hour on the train. So we thought, we really want there to be an improv group in Glossop, and maybe people will come along, maybe they won't, maybe we'll just do some things and that'll be it. But 4 years later, here we are. We've got Glossop Improv is both an in-person thing and an online thing. We've kept up the online stuff. And when we come and perform for you, it will be some of our online people and our in-person people coming together, some of whom for the first time.
Oh, cool.
So I think the reason that I've ended up at the middle of all this somehow is just a sort of sense of, if the thing I want to do doesn't exist in the place that I want to do it, then I guess I have to start it and make it happen. And I think that's a similar sort of thing for other improvisers. And I hope that's something that is going to keep continuing, really empowering people to make their own thing happen. If you have a particular idea about what it is you want to do, just start doing it and people will find their way to you. And I think that's what is really thrilling about improv as an art form, is that there are always new ideas for shows, new ideas for formats, new topics to consider. Like, I'm really excited about Owen's show about like dealing with death and conversations around death. And I think what a brilliant thing for improv to tackle, that feeling of spontaneity and things could change at any moment. That's such a so closely linked with that idea. And I think that's sort of how I've ended up where I am, in the very lovely position of having all these wonderful people around me, is that I try and create a sense of community wherever I go and sort of bring people together. And I'm not very interested in structure and hierarchy or anything like that. So I'm always trying to help people. If anybody has an idea for what they want to facilitate or what they want to do, I want to try and help them do it. So, yeah.
No, that sounds, sometimes you've just got to do it yourself, as they say, because no one else is going to do it for you. So
yeah, absolutely.
I admire that intrepid spirit of just kind of going, build it and they will come. Because it's true, if people have fun and they enjoy doing something, then they bring other people of a like-minded ilk to come and join you, and now you go on a little adventure together, which is always very pleasurable. So thinking about I'm the more and more I've sort of done improv over the years, and more I realize how it's sort of become part, not necessarily a philosophy, but more of a kind of the guidelines kind of almost filter into your life. I don't know if that's something that you've thought about or experienced, but I'll give you an example. My wife described that, obviously there's a theory around that you go in 7-year cycles, and that idea of death and rebirth and all that sort of stuff. And my wife described the past 7 years as Mark's melancholic years. And I kind of agreed, because I was kind of going, okay, what do I do? Where do I go? I wasn't being particularly creative. I was in work, but not outside of that. So my new mantra is kind of find the fun. And that's sort of what I've taken into making new work, working with people, and actually seeing a genuine change and excitement about trying new stuff, and not really worrying about failing, because failing is part of learning. So is there anything that you kind of gone, okay, that's something that I've taken on board? Or
I think the improv ethos of why not, let's just do it and see what happens, is a really kind of powerful thing to take into kind of any area of life, I think. But it's definitely helped me sort of within my career in higher education. It's really helped to sort of battle the idea of the imposter syndrome, because I think with improv you open yourself up to looking ridiculous so much that you sort of, it's like a superpower then, because you just like, well, I know I can just go in and do a thing and be all right with the idea that people might laugh at me or judge me or think I'm ridiculous or foolish. And sort of taking that in to work has really helped me to kind of build up my confidence and say, yeah, I do actually know what I'm talking about. And, you know, I can do all this amazing stuff when I've got no idea what I'm talking about with improv. You know, I could do all kinds of stuff with that. So when it's something that I have researched and learned about and spent all this time doing, then yeah, I can do all the things that I'm wanting to do, but maybe a bit scared of.
No, I've now I feel quite empowered to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with that. You know, once upon a time I would have perhaps worried about that, or like you say, looking silly or foolish. Certainly in a different context on stage, I'm not bothered, but elsewhere. And also, you know, the thing of kind of asking questions, being curious, I think is something that's sort of become more and more part of my DNA, is kind of going, okay, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to ask somebody who is an expert, and I'm going to ask probably the most silliest questions ever. But fortunately, it's choosing the right person to ask those questions to, who are generous enough to explain and give you, in lay terms, an understanding. And that's something that I've kind of taken up. That generosity is then sharing that with other people. So if people come to me and ask me certain things, I will try and be helpful in the same way. So almost like paying it forward.
Yeah.
I kind of quite like. And I think improv companies are very good at paying it forward in terms of, we'll come and share your bill, you come and share our bill. I've always admired that sort of punk ethos where, you know, you come and headline us, we'll bring our audience, vice versa. So you develop a new group of people who might like you or might not. but the point is, it's, you know, it's done in the right way and done for the right reasons. So super excited to have Short and Sweet coming to us. What might the audience expect? What's with, and also because you're going to be running a workshop. When I read your workshop, I went, oh my God, this sounds so interesting. One of the things I've been thinking a lot about is about rhythms and how we break rhythms and how we play different rhythms. So I'm really excited to sort of get a little bit more insight into what the audience might come to expect for the sort of stage show, but also what they might expect in the workshop.
Yeah, so the Short and Sweet show, we're going to bring a selection of our favourite short form improv games to you, and it will just be a lovely time. That's the main thing, is that you will leave with a smile on your face, because our improvisers are so warm and so lovely, and that spirit of warmth and community and just giving everybody a big virtual hug is sort of at the center of what Glossop Improv is. It's like the loveliest place on the improv internet and the loveliest place in Glossop for being around. And so yeah, that sort of sense of community, I think, comes out in everything we do. And yeah, it's just a very lovely time. So that's what you could expect from that. And from the workshop, we're focused on playing with different energy levels and, like you say, different rhythms, and working on using silence and stillness, as well as, you know, the more sort of fast-paced stuff that you would normally expect. I'm kind of saying that there's room for everybody. We're particularly, it sort of came out of, I'm an improviser with MS, multiple sclerosis. So at times I suffer from fatigue, sometimes from sort of aphasia, forgetting words, and brain fog and all of that kind of thing. And so it sort of developed from wanting to find a way to still do the improv that I wanted to do when I didn't have enough energy, or my brain wasn't sort of firing on all cylinders. We also, I'm co-delivering it with James Fennell and Louise Creams, and they are autistic improvisers with other disabilities and conditions as well. So it's going to be a really welcoming space, and one that's quite inclusive for everybody. And we're really going to focus on doing what you want to do with what you have, in the moment, and finding ways to kind of play off other people's energies as well, because sometimes when your energy is low, you can sort of borrow some from other people and sort of create interest through that sort of tension between the two different energy levels. So it'll be a really interesting exploration of that, I think.
It sounds absolutely fascinating, and something that, you know, I've been thinking about for a while. Is like, as I've started to get much older, my energy levels are different. So I've sort of almost describing it as, I'm not particularly old, but I've described it as old man improv, because my energy level, you know, I have to be very careful and manage those. And, you know, at certain points, sort of kind of get, well, my naturalized rhythm has changed.
Yeah.
And that's part of growing older and recognizing that and how that might be useful to me. Because it feels like I'm starting to put on a different set of clothes in terms of my age. And again, you know, my ability to be able to think as quickly and as clearly as I once did has gone. But actually, that's really interesting. So my memory for remembering names, which I used to pride myself on, I can't remember in the same way. So rather than it becoming a thing, I now become the person who forgets people's names or makes new names up or things like that. So it becomes something else.
Yeah.
So from one energy, it sort of transforms into something else. And I think that's, you know, I think it's fascinating that you're bringing that and are exploring that in a way and bringing it to the festival, because I think that will be especially interesting, because the improv community in Liverpool is a real mix now. There's sort of those people who've been doing it for a long while, and then there's a huge emergence of new and fresh, exciting. So there's a balance of things going on, which I think is really, really interesting to kind of explore and just take on board that, actually. When I was much younger, I would have kind of gone, get on with it, stop moaning, blah, blah, blah. But now I'm kind of going, when I get up in the morning, it sounds like I'm twisting bubble wrap. So everything pops. And you kind of get, okay, this is what age feels like. And actually, that's what, you know, sort of like, it's interesting watching Joe Bill and kind of sort of, it's still there and everything's there, but it's just ever so slight. It feels more natural now in terms of the playing of energy and speed and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I've been waffling. Sorry, apologies. So thinking about a big avid reader. What would you say your favorite books on improv are? Why do you think other people should read them? Why did they speak to you as opposed to others?
Yeah, so I actually happen to have some here, so I can just show you. This improv book. It's my camera isn't like it, but it's This Improv Book is what it's called, by David Escobedo, who is an amazing improviser, facilitator, community maker, leader, brilliant person. And I love his really practical approach to improv, and he just makes things really easily digestible and sort of really demystifies, you know, what is happening in certain improv games or improv exercises. So it gives you a real sense of why we're doing things as well as what it is we're doing. There's also How to Be the Greatest Improviser on Earth by Will Hines, which I love, because it's such a good mix of really helpful practical improv advice, but then also kind of reflections on his own life, his own experiences and what he's learned. And it's so honest about the sort of mistakes that he's made along the way. So I think that's always really nice to read, to you know, see somebody's like progress throughout their life as an improviser and the things that they've really taken on board, and also the things that they've sort of rejected as they've sort of got further down their path. So yeah, I really like those two books.
Fab. Yeah, I still carry around with me Viola Spolin's Improv Theatre. I think it's, you know, it's just a work of genius. You know, at various iterations. Acid Ronan's How to Direct Improv.
Oh, that's a great one as well. Yeah.
What's blah, 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 Seen from the Inside Out, which is Mick Napier. Again, you know, there's sort of, and I become a big avid collector. I mean, I really like David's stuff on Improv Boost. Certainly, sort of picking the idea of rules, guidelines, that sort of thing. I've been following that with great fascination of kind of going, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, my own improv journey was very different. We didn't start learning. I started devising, which was really improvising and writing it down and making plays. So I didn't really know I was improvising. So I never was really exposed to rules and things like that, which I kind of go, oh, okay. So some of it makes no sense to me because I'm kind of going, I kind of know what this is, but I don't. I've sort. It's not that I've rejected those things because I understand why they're there, but that series has been absolutely kind of fascinating. Yeah, and we had a good catch up over in Liverpool when he was over, and just sort of talking through some of that stuff actually, and kind of going, okay, because really for me, I will always come from it from like I'm making a piece of unscripted theatre, not coming at it from a game. There will be games within it, and I'm a big advocate of find the game within the scene, finding the idea of structurally how it might work, where's the narrative arc and all of that sort of stuff, and absolutely kind of love short form stuff. I'm just not very good at it. I find it, my brain, you know, trying to do remembering A, B, C, D, I'm kind of going, oh, it's not happening anymore. Even though I'll be at home and I'll be practicing, I'm going to go through the alphabet and create a monologue just for myself. And I kind of get, my brain's not having this. so I'm a big admirer of short form, but I'm rubbish at it because I just kind of, my brain doesn't work in that way at all. I do find it funny. Yeah, it works for different people. So, big question: if you were to guest curate for the festival next year, and money was no limitation, and you wanted to bring a company over that you really have never seen, or you know of their work, or things like that, who would you choose? Who would you come and have maybe deliver a workshop that you've kind of maybe experienced or you would want to experience? Who would be your picks?
I would have Ari Wittula, who is based in Norway, because he writes brilliant blogs about improv, and I really want to see him perform. So I would definitely have him performing. As for the workshop, I would bring Velvet Wells over from Canada. Velvet is an amazing improviser, and I am very in love with their work. I've done some online workshops with them, but not in person, and I really think that so many people would benefit from working with them because they do a great workshop called The Mindful Menace, which is about how to play baddies in improv, but still like make it a really nice experience for everybody. So you're not this awful villain that is just ruining everybody else's time. So those would be my top picks. So I'd have Ari and Velvet.
Fab, that sounds amazing. I have to check some of that. Check some of that out. So thinking about where you think improv, where you would like improv, where I would like improv is that it happens more in theatres across the country. It is sort of valued in the same way that the well-made play is. That's sort of my ambition for the next 10 years for improv. What's your ambition? Where might you envision? Where do you think it might? Where's the dream world for Jess in terms of what improv is?
I would really like improv to be a part of just schools and education generally. I'd like it to be definitely on the curriculum somewhere, you know, in the same regard as drama or music or art. And I think it would be really good to get it into workplaces as well, as just as a sort of, you know, not as a like it has to be super corporate or anything like that, but it's so good for all of the skills that people need, you know, all of the interpersonal skills, all of the communication skills, team working, all of that sort of thing. And having a bit more improv just everywhere would make that all a lot better, I think.
Yeah, so the ability to listen, interpret what is being told, or picking up on those micro signals of someone being uncomfortable and those sort of things, in terms of being sort of, you know, more aware of if someone's in distress, but they're disguising that, and being able to all of those sort of things, which I think I've become much better at in terms of just listening with my eyes and ears, and then how you interpret that, and then how do I make myself sometimes smaller and less big to make someone feel comfortable, or sometimes I have to make myself slightly bigger to be able to get quite.
I mean, I always have to make myself bigger because I'm quite small, but I have no problem with that.
No, I very often now I find myself not necessarily hunching, but I'm very aware of making myself much smaller, because sometimes it can make people feel slightly uncomfortable. I'm aware of that, which perhaps I wasn't before. So yeah, dreams for the perfect improv utopia. I agree. I think schools, it'd be really interesting, rather than it being taught through drama, that it's actually a separate thing. Because I think the soft skills that you develop, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, that's partly why I put the question in about how does improv inform your own life?
Yeah,
because I think
absolutely.
it generally does. I have to say, I think people who do it regularly get that regular endorphin boost of just humor and things like that. So what's plans for Glossop after LIF? What are you up to? What you're thinking of doing? What's the next thing for you?
So we have a regular show. We have a regular monthly show in Glossop, and we are looking for other opportunities to perform. Possibly going to look to apply for the Nottingham Improv Festival as well. Yeah, so you know, if anybody wants us to come and perform, we're quite happy to travel around and go wherever. But we really want to get some other people to come to Glossop to perform with us as well. We've got some brilliant guest workshop teachers come in. We've got John Nguyen, who's going to be fantastic, and then we try and kind of space them out throughout the year. So hopefully we're going to get a few more fantastic teachers over to Glossop.
Fab, brilliant. I think that kind of takes us where I was hoping we'd get to. It looks like we might have just hit time. Oh,
so big thank you to Jess for her great interview. Glossop Improv will be at the Liverpool Improvisation Festival on Saturday, the 22nd of April, with their show Short and Sweet, which takes place in Unity 2 at 3:45 p.m. Prior to that, Jess and team will be delivering a workshop from 12 till 2 p.m, exploring playing at your own speed. Tickets for both events are still available and can be booked at the Unity Theatre website, which is www.unitytheatreliverpool.co.uk. If you scroll down on the What's On page and look for Liverpool Improvisation Festival, all details are there for you. Thank you.